This podcast is sponsored by Hollywood Casino in Charlestown, West Virginia. April's featured entertainment includes Los Lobos on the 12th, Josh Turner on the 13th, and the Steel Woods on the 26th. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. The new 8-episode Holocaust miniseries, We Were the Lucky Ones, premieres tomorrow on Hulu. I spoke about it with actress Joey King, author Georgia Hunter, and showrunner Erica Lopez.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Excited to be here.
So we have actress Joey King, we have author Georgia Hunter, and the showrunner Erica Lopez. I know what it's about, you know what it's about, but our listeners don't. So it's based on a true story, but give them the basic premise, log line about the, who the family is and all that.
Sure, this is Georgia. I can start. This story is based on actually my family history. So it's something I discovered at a young age and then dove into researching and unearthing in 2008. And it follows my grandfather, Addie, who Logan Lerman plays, and he's one of 5 siblings, a couple parents, young niece, as they scatter at the start of the Second World War. They're a family of Polish Jews, sort of on a twofold mission to survive and also to reunite.
Everyone read the book. She wrote an amazing book called We Were Lucky Ones, which is the best.
You guys are the sweetest. So I should mention too, their paths. They scatter. The story, our series actually follows them through 9 years and over 4 continents. So in that sense, it's not your typical Holocaust story. It's quite global in that sense. They really are scattered to the winds. And yet it's told through this one family's perspective. So it really is a personal, very, very kind of human telling of the Holocaust through the eyes of these siblings and the parents.
Gotcha. And then one follow-up question for Georgia. I believe I read that this is your first novel, right? And I think you learned that your family was Holocaust survivors at age 15. So was that, did I read that right? Was that not something you grew up knowing? You discovered it in like your teenage years?
Yeah, I did. Unlike I think many kids who come from Holocaust survivors, I did not know about this part of my story. I think it's, from the survivor's perspective, you either embraced it and talked about it, or you put it behind you. And my grandfather was one of those who put it behind him. So he and I, even though we were very close, it just wasn't a part of our dialogue. I grew up down the street from my grandparents, and I adored my grandfather. But he died when I was 14, and then at 15, a high school English teacher assigned us a project to go interview a relative to learn a little bit about our roots. And I sat with my grandmother, Caroline, and it was over the course of that hour with her that his story came to light. Obviously sparked a lot of curiosity and a lot of questions. And I learned quite a bit more about sort of the greater Courts family narrative at a family reunion some years later with my mom and her cousins sitting around a table and telling stories about the war that were unlike anything I'd ever heard before. And I think that was the year 2000, and probably when the idea was seeded that someone in the family should write the story down. I didn't know it would be me, but I couldn't quite let go of that thought. And it took 8 years, but I finally put that stake in the ground in 2008 and started flying around the world to interview relatives and follow in their footsteps and their journeys to survival and dig up any records I could find. And that whole process took 9 years as well. So it's been like the last 16 years of my life essentially has been revolved around either unearthing or recording the story to paper and now to the screen, which I feel so grateful and honored to be able to work with such an incredible group, cast and crew, and Tommy and Erica and Hulu, who have embraced the story and taken it into their hearts just as I had. And now it gets a new life on the screen.
Wow, yeah, sounds like a long time in the making of your personal journey and getting it out there. That's awesome. Well, let's talk
Yeah.
to the quote incredible team that you're talking about. Let's bring in the Hollywood folk now. Showrunner Erica
That's
Lopez.
awesome.
Let's start with Erica Lopez. You're the showrunner. Obviously, you've written episodes, just so our listeners of Bates Motel and Morning Show, and produced and written in the past. But tell me sort of, you get a hold of Georgia's novel. Tell me about just, the being able to have the time to explore it out over 8 episodes rather than, just like a 2 or 3 hour movie. How did you go about, breaking down sort of the epic scope of the novel, all these continents, and spacing it out, pre-war, during war, concentration camps, and then post-war trying to reunite. Like it spans a lot of time and literal ground. So how'd you go about sort of like, having to let it breathe and have the 8 episodes?
Well, I think what was both the opportunity of a lifetime of this book was also what was so daunting about adapting it. I mean, when I read Georgia's book, I read it in like 24 hours. I couldn't put it down. It left me absolutely breathless and heartbroken and uplifted. And it had everything I'd ever wanted to do as a writer and as a Jewish writer. I'd never been able to explore content like this. And but it also, as someone who had written for a lot of television, I knew sort of some of the rules, quote unquote, rules that you try to follow in TV, and it broke so many of them. It's this huge ensemble that you invest in all the characters equally. It spans 9 years, 4 continents. Our big ensemble gets to act together for about 30 minutes before they're scattered across countries and continents. And so we knew it would be a challenge, and we had this incredible group of writers. And the truth is, it's a really faithful adaptation. So our guide was Georgia's book. I mean, her plotting of the narrative of the book is so strong. I often tell her I think she has the soul of a TV writer, because it does have that sort of breathless pace that you want to follow. That's sort of how you try to create a television series. But I think probably years ago, this would have been the kind of book that you would have adapted into a movie. And that would have been such a shame, because I think what makes this story so remarkable are the different strands of the storytelling through this family, through Joey's character, Helena, and these other siblings and the parents. And to be able to follow those storylines equally throughout the series is only something you could do in a TV show with 8 episodes. So that was the real gift that Hulu gave us, to have those 8 hours to explore the family in as much depth as we wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, Hulu. Let's bring Joey King in now. I know you've been sort of under the Hulu umbrella for several things. Your Emmy nomination for The Act, and then kicking butt as in The Princess, trying to get out of the tower. Laying waste to all those guards.
Guilty of it all. I said I'm guilty of it all. It's all true.
Exactly. Not to mention your younger child stuff and The Conjuring and Crazy Stupid Love. Like, people recognize you for a while. But I'm curious, for your generation, I'm curious. You were born in 99, so your early 20s. Like, how does the Holocaust resonate in the age of social media? And I mean, you were barely. You don't even really remember 9/11, much less Schindler's List or Life is Beautiful. Like, a lot of those things predate your even existed. So I guess your generation maybe have been what, like The Book Thief? I'm trying to think something that would have been in early 2010s of a child during the Holocaust kind of a movie. But I'm curious how that resonates for an actress of your time, and why it's important to continue to remind people that this happened.
It's an interesting question, because I think when you ask me this question versus someone else with a different heritage, you will probably get a different answer. For me, the Holocaust and my Jewish history has been something that is ever present in conversations in my home since I was a young girl. I've said this before, but there's no defining moment where I learned about the Holocaust in school and came home and was like, what happened? This is insane. It's something that I don't even remember when I first learned about it, because it was just an open conversation in the home. And I think it's because my family wanted to remain educated and have all of us know what happened, but also to prepare us for anti-Semitism in the world and be proud of who we are. And so, when you ask me this question, as an early 20s person, like, yes, the Holocaust has a huge role in my life in terms of how well informed I am on it, how many books I've read on it, how many films that you might think I'm too young to see, but I have. And you know, but in terms of other people of my generation, I can only hope that they have, you know, if it's not their heritage, I understand maybe they don't know as much, but I can only hope they're, you know, educated in a similar way, because in an age of social media, information is so accessible, and it's just what kind of information gets to you, whether it's true or false. And also, you know, everything's tailored to each person so perfectly on algorithms. Who knows what's showing up and what's not showing up? I have had very interesting survivor stories of the Holocaust like pop up on my TikTok, but I don't know if that's just because it's my algorithm. Like, I'm not sure. So I really hope that my generation can continue to learn about it in a way that, you know, this, yes, our show it's educational. It's very harrowing. It has a lot of hope and a lot of heartbreak, but it's also entertainment, which is a really fabulous way to retain information, is by sitting down and watching a show with your family, with your loved ones, and you are being entertained. Sounds like the wrong word because it's such a hard subject matter, but it's in a form that is digestible because it's such a great paced story that you just can't stop watching, and you love these characters so much, and you're finding out about real history. I always think when any true version of the Holocaust is told in a form of television or film, it's an opportunity to learn a completely new perspective from the Holocaust, because there's so many different perspectives from people in the Holocaust. There's people who were Jews, there's people who were hiding Jews, there's people who were married to soldiers who were, you know, allies of Jews. Like, and every time a true story is told, it's a really exciting thing to be able to keep that education alive.
Oh, absolutely. And so well said. I mean, I truly do believe that, I mean, hell, I was only born in the early 80s. So, I mean, I missed a lot of I wasn't around for the Diary of Anne Frank.
Okay,
George Stevens, you know, but I know can cite all those movies, and so can you. Like, it doesn't matter what age we're in. I think it's important, like, you know, past, present, and future all intertwine, if you ask me. Like, there really is no past, present, future. And that's why we got to kind of stay on guard and protect against anti-Semitism and rise of fascism and a lot of stuff we're seeing today. So I'm with you. Hey, thank you so much. Again,
thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason.
Yes,
Thanks.
We Were the Lucky Ones on Hulu, March 28th. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.